continue working on the question of the speaking section. We'll continue practicing, and we'll also be looking at some sample responses today and analyzing them. Okay, guys, so see. Okay, guys. So I was telling you, let's take a look at some sample responses, and let's also see what the ETS says and what the ETS suggests about your responses. Okay, guys, so we're going to start by reviewing these tips from the ETS itself. Let's see what they say. Yeah, so this PDF has actually been shared by the ETS itself. It's published by the ETS, and it's basically response tips for the first question of the speaking section. Okay, guys, so let's see what they say about your responses and what they expect from your responses. So we have this question here. Maybe, Mateo, could you please read the question in the box?
Sure, teacher. Some people enjoy taking risks and trying new things. Others are not adventurous. They are cautious and prefer to avoid danger. Which behavior do you think is better?
Which behavior do you think is better? Okay, guys, so I remember that we did this question yesterday, right? We were practicing, we answered this question. Somebody did it. That some people enjoy taking risks and trying new things. Others are cautious and they prefer to avoid danger. I'm sorry. So these are the response tips from the ETS. It says to respond to this particular question, you should clearly state what your opinion is. Do you think it's better to take risks or to be cautious? So basically that part is the introduction, right? When you state clearly your opinion. Do you think it's better to take risks or to be cautious? You have to answer that question directly. And that was the introduction, right? You think it's better to take risks. Then it says, then you should give reasons to support your opinion. So you need to give your reason, right? You need to say, because or since you get to know yourself better. I remember that was a reason that somebody was using yesterday. You get to know yourself better. And then look at this part. And this is what you guys were forgetting yesterday. It says, if you take the position that you think it's better to take risks and try new things, you might give an example of a time when you or someone you know took a risk and was rewarded. That is very important, guys. The example, right? You need to give examples where you give specific details. It says the example should have good details and the relationship between the example and your opinion should be clear. So for example, you say, I believe it's better to take risks because that way you get to know yourself better. For example, you're going to give an example that is illustrating what you said in the reason, right? That you know yourself better. For example, last month, I decided to take piano lessons and I realized that I'm really not good at music and that I hate music. And this month I tried playing soccer. I started practicing soccer, and I know that that's what really works for me. I am better at sports than I'm at music. So what I'm doing is I have an example where I give specific details, good details, when, last month, what, piano lessons, soccer lessons, and it's connected to my reason, right? My reason was that you know yourself better. So I'm saying I took this risk, I did this, and I got to know myself better. So that's basically what you guys need in your response. It says, if you take the position that it's better to be cautious, you might give an example of a situation where being cautious is beneficial. But you need to give examples, right? You might continue to develop the response by contrasting what would happen in this situation if a risk were taken. Another way to develop and elaborate on your responses is by contrasting. What do you mean? What do I mean by contrasting? For example, let's go back to the same example. I say, I uh, I prefer to take risks because that way I can know myself better. For example, I took piano lessons. I didn't like them. I'm not good at music. I like sports. And I can contrast this with what would have happened if I hadn't taken this risk. So I can say, if I hadn't taken this risk of trying new things, I would have never known that I'm good at sports and I would be wasting my time on something else, right? So I can contrast, but what would happen if a risk was taken, or maybe of the opposite, right? If I was cautious, depending. Keep in mind that there's no correct answer to this question. Either behavior can be supported with examples. The important part is to make sure that you state your opinion and develop your response with good examples and relevant details. As with all speaking tasks, your response should be intelligible, should be easy to understand. It should demonstrate effective use of grammar and vocabulary, and it should be well developed and coherent. And then you get the rubrics. Okay, guys? So I wanted to show you this so that you know that this is what the ETS says, right? This is official from the ETS. And they say that you have to give examples. So in today's practice, I don't want you guys to forget, give me your examples. Okay, guys? Do you have any questions so far? Is everything okay? Everything clear?
Everything's okay.
Okay, guys, so we'll continue practicing, and maybe halfway through the class, we can take a look at some sample responses. But let's continue practicing. Let's take a timer. Yes. Okay, guys. Let's start with this question. Let me see if I can. Okay, it says, when looking for information for a research project, some students prefer to gather information mainly from the internet. Others prefer to mainly use printed materials such as books and academic journals. Which do you prefer and why? Now you guys will have 15 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay. So, is there anyone who would like to go first? Who wants to go first? No one? Maybe Mateo? Do you mind going first?
Okay, teacher. Well, I would prefer to get information mainly from the internet because of the internet of in the internet you can find anything you need that uh, you can't find always all the things you need in printed material. Like internet has more variety maybe, or is like internet is better to give you more materials.
Okay, Mateo, good, not bad. Great introduction. You had a good reason, but I think that you over-explained it and you were a little redundant. You were repeating the same idea instead of going with an example, right? So I prefer searching for information on the internet. And I think that your idea was that it has more information, right? You can access more information. And then stop yourself. Don't explain, don't tell me the internet is better. You can find everything that you need, everything that you can find in printed materials. You're just explaining what is not necessary to explain because the internet has more information. For example, and then start with an example, right? In order to do my final project for X class, for my biology class, I needed to investigate about why think. So I needed to investigate about how cells reproduce. And using the internet, I was able to get over 100 articles from different sources about different studies that I probably couldn't find in printed materials. Right, so just give me an example that illustrates what you're saying. The internet has more information, so I looked up for this specific information and I found a lot of information, a lot of more information than what I would have in printed materials. Right? So don't forget the examples. You're missing the example. Don't forget.
Oh yeah, teacher, I'm sorry.
Okay, no, don't say sorry. It's okay. We're practicing. That's why we're here for. What I wanted to show you guys and share with you was this reason sheet that I was telling you about. And it's exactly related to your reasons, to what we're saying now. So always try to look for the most simple reasons you can think of, for the shortest, for the most common, the most simple reasons. Most of the time, I've been thinking that you guys can come up to the same reasons for most questions, right? You can always talk about efficiency. You can say that you can save time, you can save money, you can save energy. Actually, in this question, you could have said, I prefer using the internet because you save time, because it's faster, because it's quicker, which is true, right? And then you can give an example. For example, same thing. I was doing my final biology project. I needed to investigate how cells reproduce. And I looked up for the information on the internet, and in just a few seconds, 15 seconds, I was able to get all on my hand, let's say. So saving time, saving money. You can say the internet is less expensive than buying books, for example. In other cases, you can talk about safety. So you can talk about something being healthier for you. Maybe you can say reading printed materials is healthier for you. It's better for your health. So you don't, let's say, damage your eyes. Risk of accidents, getting in shape, taking care of your mental well-being can be another thing. Productivity, I prefer to read because I can concentrate better when I'm reading printed materials. And when I'm on the internet, I can get distracted by other things. You have more things available to use. Let's say that on the internet, you have more tools. You access more information, which is what you were saying. Learning more, gaining experience, developing skills, maybe you can say I prefer reading online. That way I can develop the skill of classifying information, let's say, I don't know, sharing ideas. On the internet, you can exchange ideas, you can acquire more knowledge. Reading stimulates your imagination, for example. Maybe you can say that books contain more reliable information. You know the sources. Um, the experience is better. Sometimes you can just say that reading is more fun, it's more interesting, it's more quiet, more entertaining, more exciting. It's stress-free, or it releases stress. So you can talk about the experience as well. So these are some reasons that you guys most of the time can use for most questions. I won't say for all of them, to be honest, but sometimes it's good to have these ideas in mind. And it's also good to start writing down your ideas. So from now on, when you guys think of an idea that you think you could use in other questions, write it down. Create your own research sheet so that you have one paper where have a lot of ideas related to different topics, like education, environment, stuff like that. So I'm going to send you guys this document, but you can create your own as well, or you can add to this document. So I think it's a good tip to start writing down your ideas so that you can think of them faster and that you can think of simpler reasons as well. Is that okay, guys? Do you have any questions? Okay, guys. Let's continue now. Okay, guys. So moving on, we have, do you agree with the following statement? One of the best ways to learn is by making mistakes. Use specific examples and details to support your opinion. Now you guys will have 15 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay. So maybe Walter, do you want to go now?
Okay, teacher.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Okay. I strongly agree that one of the best ways to learn something is by making mistakes, because you can always learn from these mistakes, and you can see, you can appreciate what mistake you did before and not repeat it. For instance, I sometimes when I used to play soccer, I always used to prefer teacher, I almost got it.
Yes, you almost did. It was good though. It was really good, to be honest. The only thing I could say is start a little bit sooner with your example, and that way you'll make it on time.
Okay, but how do I say marcar? Oh, score. I forgot that verb.
Okay,
I
okay.
used to prefer to score in really small places, but when I realized that I couldn't score in smaller places, I decided to assist to my teammates.
Okay.
Learn by the mistake. I forgot the verb score.
Okay, or if you guys forget a verb, well, if you forget a word, try to always like paraphrase it in a way, you know, so score a goal, yes, but maybe if you don't know the word, you can say make a goal, for example.
Make
I
a
know that
goal.
it's not appropriate, but it's better than getting stuck. Although in your case, you were good. You were just needing some extra time.
Yes. Thank you, teacher.
Really nice. So the only thing, summarize a little bit more your reason and go with your example a little bit sooner. It was great. Our next question says, let's not do this one, it's too similar. Some people who unexpectedly receive a large amount of money spend it on practical things, while others spend it for pleasure only. Which do you think is better and why? Now you guys will have 15 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay, maybe Fernando?
Oh, okay, teacher. Wait a second, please. Mm. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, great. Go ahead.
Well, I prefer to spend uh, unexpectedly receive. Well, I prefer to spend a large amount of money on practical things because you can make longer the period while you are going to spend it for pleasure only. For example, last year I have a small amount of money and I decide to spend it by in buying some issues and then selling it. So, well, the time's over. So I was thinking about some example.
Okay. So yes, you prefer to spend money on practical things. Try to always make the introduction or make the question easier, the statements easier, because I know that it's difficult to say, if I unexpectedly receive a large amount of money, I would prefer to spend it, or I think it's better to spend it on practical things. But you know, you make it simpler. I think it's better to spend money on practical things, right? That way you won't waste a lot of time in the introduction. Now, your reason was good. The only thing is summarize it a little bit more, kind of the same as before. How could you summarize your reason more? Can you think of one way to say it more briefly? Fernando, can you maybe?
Sorry, teacher. I was talking with my microphone off. You it it could be you may spend your money on investing in so you can make more money.
Perfect, exactly. So yes, I prefer to spend money on practical things. Actually, I prefer to invest so that I can make more money. right? And then you give an example of what your investment was, right? Hold on. Okay, guys. So we have our next question here that says, state whether you agree or disagree with the following statement. Then explain your reasons using specific details in your explanation. Students should not be allowed to bring cell phones into the classroom. Guys will now have 15 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay, guys. So, Ignacio?
Okay, teacher.
All right, go ahead, please.
Okay, so I disagree with the statement. The students they can to have the cell phones to bring in the class because they can be to a problem to enter, for example, in a family accident, maybe with the problem in the house, problem with a friend, to maybe the friend could not go to school for any reason. So maybe for that.
Okay, Ignacio, nice. So I like the fact that you gave examples. You had specific details about specific reasons why the student should, or why the student could need to use a phone in the classroom. What was your reason again? What did you say in the part of your reason?
For emergency to uh, for family, friends, the people that we know, for that.
Okay. So try to always say it maybe in a more concise way. You can say, I disagree that students should not be allowed to have to bring cell phones, since there can always be an emergency, for example, or since there could be an emergency and they might need to use their phones. And then you give your examples, which are great, right? So for example, there might be an accident, they might need, maybe they have problems with their family, and then you go with your details. Great, good structure. I think maybe you needed some to connect the ideas a little bit more, but I think it was a good response, and you have the correct structure.
Thank you, teacher.
Guys, it says here, do you agree or disagree with the following statement? It is important to learn about other cultures. Use details and examples to explain your opinion. You guys will now have 15 seconds to prepare. Okay. So, Mateo?
Okay, teacher. I agree with the statement. I agree with the statement because we can always learn about other people's lives, like how they live their lives and how they do all the things, because we have to recognize our culture is not the only one in the world. So it's always interesting to know about other cultures. Like, for example, in Bolivia we have too many cultures that we can see.
Okay. Can you think of an example? So you're talking about Bolivia. Can you maybe just think about one tradition that Bolivian people have, something that's part of our culture?
Right now, I don't have anything in my mind, but I maybe can. Well, think about it. 1 second, please.
Okay.
Well, maybe we all of us in general have um, traditions that implement animals, or maybe like carnivals and other things. In Bolivia, always is more strong.
It's stronger, right? Okay, yes, it's always good to think about examples as well that you can maybe use for other things. Like cultures is something that I've seen in many questions. I mean, not necessarily learn about other cultures, but there are some questions that are about cultures in general. So it's always good to think about one culture, one example, one tradition. So yes, we're saying that we can learn from other cultures, we can learn important things from other cultures. Maybe you can talk about, let's say, protecting the environment, right? You can say we can learn from Bolivian culture to protect the environment. Or you can talk about other countries. Another thing that you can mention here for cultures is respect. Maybe you can say, yes, I believe it's important to learn about other cultures so that if you ever encounter them, you don't disrespect them. Let's say you can say, for example, in Bolivia, and you can always make it up, right? You can say in Bolivia, it is considered extremely rude and disrespectful not to hug somebody when you meet them. Let's say, right? It doesn't really matter how true that is, but at the end of the day, it's about illustrating what you said. So you could say that. So if somebody who's not from here comes and comes to Bolivia and introduces themselves without a hug, that can be seen as disrespectful. So consider that you can always make things up, make examples up, and remember to not explain your reason too much. You said we can learn important things from them, and that was enough. Go directly to your example. Tell me about one culture and how we can learn from that culture. Okay.
Okay, teacher.
Okay, guys, we have another one here. It says more and more people are buying items on the internet and from magazines or catalogs. Other people prefer shopping in a store. Which do you prefer and why? Now you'll have 15 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay. Walter, please.
Okay, teacher. I prefer shopping in a store, in a physical store, because it's a better taste to me. I like it more. For instance, I can always prove or try on clothes or whatever I'm going to buy, and I can decide more efficiently if I really liked it. I don't know if there was my example, but
Yes, it was a good sample. I would probably give a little bit more context because in the question it just says buying items. So yes, when you talk about one specific item, clothes, or you can even be more specific, let's say pants, that is an example, right? Yes, I prefer in items in a store since I like the experience better, or you can say I think it's a more efficient way to know what you actually want to buy. And your example is about one specific items. For example, if I'm buying pants in a store, I need to try them on, see if they fit. I can see myself in the mirror, see if I really like the pants that I'm going to buy, and then buy them, right? So yes, it's an example if you are specific, right? If you talk about clothes, if you talk about one type of clothing specifically, yes, it's an example. It was good. To be honest, I don't think I have any comments. I forgot to say something about the previous one. Remember to always say the statement, right? I agree that it's important to learn about cultures instead of I agree with this. Something I forgot for the previous one, and I'm looking at my notes and I realized that I didn't mention that. Okay, guys, good. Now we have some people prefer to learn about current events from watching television news programs. Others prefer to read about current events in newspapers or on the internet. Which do you think is better, watching the news or reading the news? Explain why. Now you guys will have 15 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay. So, Fernando, please.
Okay, teacher.
Go ahead.
Um, sorry, teacher. Can I start again?
Yeah, sure, don't worry. Go ahead.
Okay. I prefer to read about events in newspapers or on the internet because there are a lot of information and events, and the information is every time actualized, and you can read more about the event, some opinions of other people's. For example, the last year, my new year was on a hotel, and that was a good experience by looking it on internet.
Okay, great. So, good introduction. I prefer reading the news on the internet. Now, as for your reasons, I think you have 3 reasons, and that's why you couldn't really, you guys need to focus on only one. You need to make it, I don't know how to say, maybe a little bit more narrow, right? It doesn't have to be so broad, so general. It has to be a little more narrow, more specific. So you said that you have a lot of information. You said that the information is updated. And you said that you can share ideas with other people. So those are 3 different reasons. Focus on one. I prefer reading the news on the internet since the information is more updated. For example, and then you go with your example, right? When I don't know, when I was finding out the news about the new vaccines for the COVID-19 pandemic, every 5 minutes, there were updates about the development of vaccines, which is something that you can't do while, let's say, watching TV. So obviously, probably not true, but it doesn't matter. The important thing is that I'm giving a specific example about one specific news. So the development of vaccines for the pandemic. And I'm saying that it was updated every 5 minutes. So focus on one idea only. Don't be so narrow because it will be harder to illustrate. And careful with some vocabulary. Remember, updated, actualizado. Remember the pronunciation of the word event. And remember that people is already plural, right? So we cannot say peoples. You have one person, una persona, or many people, muchas personas, people. So careful with that. But mostly focus on one idea.
Okay, thank you, teacher.
Okay, guys. Our next question says, do you agree or disagree with the following statement? Your friends are the most important influence in your life. Use details and examples to explain your opinion. And now you guys will have 15 seconds to prepare your response. You guys? So, Ignacio, please.
Okay, teacher. I agree for the statement that our friends are the most important places in our lives because our friends, it's like a second family that we have. So when I need an emergency or I need help with anything, we always have our friends. For example, maybe in an accident that we have, some friend that we close we have close in here in that can help you, or in the other side we can have our friends.
Okay, good. So yes, perfect. I agree that, right, instead of for. I agree that friends are the most important influence. Now, you had a good reason in case of an emergency. Your friends are always there to help you. And you had an example as well. Maybe I'll be a little bit more specific. Talk about, let's say, an accident. Maybe you can say a traffic accident, right? You're saying your friend, or maybe you can even give a personal experience, right? For example, last month I got into a car accident, and the only person that I could think of calling was a friend that I have nearby who, I don't know, who got there as soon as he could, maybe, I don't know. Right, so try to be a bit more specific with the examples, careful with the introduction, and in general, I'd suggest that you try to speak a little bit slower, but try to articulate the words a little bit more, word by word. At least in the beginning, try to go word by word, because I was having some problems understanding some parts. I think, especially the introduction was a little fast. So speak a little bit slower, articulate a little bit more to improve your delivery. And for the content, just be more specific with the example.
Okay, teacher. Thank you.
Okay, guys. It says, explain whether you agree or disagree with the following statement. All workers should have a guaranteed living wage regardless of what skills they possess. Then give specific details in your argument. And now you will have 15 seconds to prepare your response. Okay. So who wants to go? Does anyone want to try?
Teacher, excuse me. I would like to ask you if you could give us an example with this topic.
Okay.
It's kind of confusing to me.
Okay, sure. Remember, wage means salario, right? It's like salary. Maybe that word is English. But yes, if you want me to, then I can try, perhaps.
Yeah, I'd appreciate it.
I completely agree that all workers should have a guaranteed living wage, since everybody needs to fulfill basic needs. For example, an architect needs to probably provide for his family in the same way that a teacher needs to, or a worker has to. So it doesn't matter what skill they possess or how they contribute to society, they should all have a guaranteed living wage that allows them to fulfill their basic needs and provide for their family. Right? So maybe that would be an example. Important thing is that I probably had some extra time that I could have maybe added another reason. But I was thinking of what reason to give, and to be honest, the only thing that I could think of was like fulfilling everybody's basic needs. I try to be short with my reason, and I try to give specific examples, right? Comparing an architect, maybe a construction worker or a teacher. But the important thing is that you guys give a specific details. It doesn't matter if it's too simple, right? Always make it simple, articulate well. It wasn't perfect, but it was not off topic. So maybe that can be an example. I don't know what you guys think. Maybe you have some comments, some questions. Okay, guys. Remember that your reason is general, right? All workers should have a guaranteed living wage. So in your reason, you say everybody, all workers. You talk about everyone. Yes, everyone has needs. Everyone has a family, let's say. Everybody contributes to society in a different way. I'm not giving any specific details. And then in your example, you give specific details. So you stop talking about everybody, about all workers, and you talk about one specific work. So you can make it personal. You can say, for example, I am a teacher and I have the skill of communicating or sharing knowledge to other students. And I have to, let's say, I have basic needs that I have to fulfill. On the other hand, a construction worker contributes in a different way to society with different skills, but has the same needs as I do. So I believe that we both should have at least a guaranteed living wage, right? So I make it in personal in that case. I'm talking about myself, and I'm giving details, right? I'm a teacher. I do this. I work in that. A construction worker does this, has these skills, and those are specific details, right? I'm not talking about everybody, all workers anymore. I'm talking about one specific worker, one specific skill. And you don't necessarily have to talk about yourself. You can do what I did before, right? An architect versus a construction worker, let's say. Okay, guys. Any questions? Is that okay?
Yeah, perfect, teacher. Thank you.
Okay, guys, remember, regardless also means no matter, right? No matter what skills they possess. Sin importar. Yes, maybe the
That was
vocabulary.
confusing me. That regardless was confusing me a little bit. Thank
Okay. Regardless. Less means without, right? Lack of. So without considering. Regard is like considering, right? So in regards to this topic, considering this topic, regardless, without considering. Okay, guys. So our next question here says, some people enjoy spending their free time alone in activities such as reading, thinking, or writing. Others enjoy spending their free time in shared activities with other people. Which do you prefer and why? Now I'll give you guys 15 seconds to prepare. Okay, is there anyone who would like to try this one?
Me, teacher.
Okay, Fernando, perfect. Oh, go ahead, please.
Okay. I prefer to spend my free time in shared activities with other people because I work on home office every day alone, and when I have some free time, I prefer to prefer by making other activities like exercises or being with other people to socialize, uh, and that's it, to socialize.
Okay, good. You're saying you prefer to do these other activities since you work from home, but why? Why do you prefer to do these activities? You didn't really say
Because
why.
my oh mm, because I don't have activities with other people on my day, on my routine.
Exactly. So say that before you talk about yourself, before you give me specific examples. So every day I work from the home office. So give that reason, right? I prefer to spend my free time doing shared activities since in my daily routine, I normally, I only spend my time alone. And then tell me, for example, I work, give me more details. You said you work from home, you work remotely, but tell me what you do. For example, you can say, I teach English from home, right? Be a little bit more specific. From, you said every day, right? But tell me from what time to what time? I teach English from home from 5 to 9, or from 9 to 5, sorry. From 9 to 5. And the time that I have free, after 5 p.m., I would like to spend it on shared activities so that I can socialize, right? So it was good, but maybe change the structure a little bit. We have the reason first and then the details.
Okay, teacher.
Yes, perfect. All right then. So we didn't have time to see the sample responses. Probably tomorrow we have one more class to work on this. But what do you think so far? Do you have any questions, any comments before we go?
No, teacher. I was wondering if I could try this exercise, maybe
Okay, yes, of course. Why not?
45 seconds. Mm,
Yes, give me a second though, please. Okay.
Okay, teacher. I prefer spending my free time alone. Shall I start?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay, I prefer spending my free time alone, teacher, because I like to spend it with myself, growing up as a human and improving my skills, my abilities, and discovering maybe something new. For instance, I am creating a new habit that is the habit of the meditation. So I can relax myself when I'm on the stress days, and I can improve my mindset too. That's why I feel, and I say that I prefer spending my time with myself.
Okay, Walter, great. Really good. So, great structure. You had your introduction, you answered directly the question, you had your reason, which was short, and then you had an example with specific details, a specific activity, right? That's perfect. And you even had time for a short conclusion. Remember that if you have like 3 seconds, a short conclusion would be, that's why I think so. That's why I feel this way, right? You don't have too much time. But I think it was really good. No comments, really. One little detail. Remember, growing up means like physically growing up. If you just want to say crecer como persona, grow, right? To grow as a human being, to grow as a person. The only thing, but I think it was really good, Walter. Nice.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, guys. Any other questions before we go? Yeah. So please don't forget today's daily survey on your screens. And I will be seeing you guys tomorrow. We'll continue practicing our last practice session for this task. So I will be seeing you there.
Bye, teacher.
Okay, I'll see you
Bye-bye.
then, teacher. Goodbye.
Bye, teacher.
Bye-bye.
Bye, teacher. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.